This is not going to be fun, but we do have to discuss it because a lot of you have asked about it. So the whole Ed Orgeron LSU future of the program situation, I think it's a little bit more clear. Like, I know you guys have been talking about it nonstop on talk radio down there. I know the websites have been churning, Twitter's been churning. I think it's decided. I don't think he's going to be there much longer. And I certainly don't think he'll be here this time next year. But I think the reason for that does not lie in the future. This is important to note as we have a game with LSU going on the road against Kentucky looming this Saturday. I don't think that game has much bearing at all on the outcome here. Whereas some other people I've talked to, they do think that. There's some other people who are painting this Saturday as a must-win. I think 5 years into a tenure, that's always dumb to look at it that way. Like, you don't already know enough. You haven't already gathered enough information 5 or in some cases kind of 6 years in now. You don't already know everything you need to know about your head coach? Of course you do. If you're waiting for the outcome of one 4-quarter game to determine the future of your program, you're not the right person to be making the calls, to be honest with you. So I think opposite of how some people think about that. Now, a lot of people down there think it's already decided too. I just think the point of no return is not in the future. It's already in the rearview mirror. So let's talk about this for a second, because I'm sensing some outsiders who did not grow up and are not of LSU. I sense some people outside the LSU program don't really get what's happening here. The outside perspective that I've heard a lot is, what's wrong with those people? They just won a national title 2 years ago. Like, how ungrateful can you be? How much can you lack perspective? They don't lack perspective. They have perspective. Here's the difference. The difference is you're driving by the house. They're living in the house. Like, you're seeing the family at church on Sunday morning. They're in the house. They see what dad's like when he comes home from work on Tuesday night. My point is, things are far worse inside the LSU house than anyone from the outside realizes, and it didn't get that way last night, and it didn't get that way overnight. It's been that way for a while. 2019 has masked it for as long as it possibly could, but it's been that way for quite a while. And I'm not talking about a young team. I'm not talking about just needing to let some roots plant. I'm not talking about new coordinators, maybe just needing to get up to speed, or maybe a recruiting class that we need to trim some fat off of. I'm not talking about that kind of thing. We're talking about wholesale changes that have to be made. They've got chronic PR issues, up to and including dealing with the head coach, mainly dealing with the head coach. They've got a piss-poor culture. They've had it for a while. The internal dynamic there is bad. It has been for a while. You've got a run game, which is the hallmark of any good LSU team, that is totally evaporated. They couldn't crack 25 yards on the ground against Auburn. And then also their inability to make very basic week 1 install and fall camp type procedural decisions in games. It's costing them. And it all lies at the feet of the person who said, this version of LSU is my team. Because that's what Ed Orgeron told us over the summer. He said, the way we had to hire Pelini last year, that was kind of, he insinuated as much that it was kind of plopped in my lap. I was kind of force-fed that. But don't worry, because now I've made my hires. This is my team. I'm doing things my way. I'm going to do things my way. I'm going to believe you when you tell me that. So this is your team. This is your way. And what I'm telling you, and forget me, what more importantly, the LSU fan base is telling you, is your way's not good enough. So a couple of things can be true here. It can be true that Ed Orgeron was the perfect guy for the season of 2019. But this is a seasonal game. You don't just sit there and hit pause and freeze yourself in time. In 2021 and moving forward, Ed Orgeron's not the right guy for this season and future seasons at LSU. It doesn't mean you ever take away 2019. If you make a move, which I think they will, 10 years down the road, depending on how all this off-the-field stuff shakes itself out, you can get over your hard feelings. No one's mad about the run game in 2030. You could look back and you could bring Ed Orgeron in there. You could walk him around the field, and everyone could be very jovial about talking about, let's say in 2029, the 10-year reunion of that title team. But that's not right now. Right now, we're not worried about 2019. Right now, we're worried about whether LSU is going to end up going 500 in a non-COVID year when all the excuses are removed. So I'm not happy at all that that's the situation down there, but yet my feelings are independent of what reality is, and that is the situation down there. I think they're going to make a move. I think it's warranted. If you watch this show or listen to this show, I'm the last person to ever say it. So when I say it, it's normally well past time for it to happen. I do probably about one segment like this a year, and that's it. Like a lot of Florida fans are hitting me up right now saying, is it time to move on from Dan Mullen? No. No, it's not time to move on from Dan. Have you looked at Florida State and Miami lately? Look at LSU. That's when you know it's time to move on. If you're having to ask, it's not time. It's not time. Please realize when you're on a 10-rung ladder and you're on rung 7, there's a lot further to go down than there is to go up. LSU's not on rung 7. They're down on rung 2 or rung 3. And so at that point, you are past the point of no return. It is time to make a move.